Today we're going to be doing an analysis of the current 2018 midterm election polls right before I leave for camp. So I have probably the most updated polls that finished off in 7/11. Sorry, that would be July 11th. Today is the 12th, but I'm pre-recording this video, so it gets out around next week, actually probably on Sunday around 2 p.m., probably when this video drops. But today we're going to be looking at, again, the 2018 midterm election polls and see what that says for the 2018 midterms. We currently have a number of sources up that give us all a general conclusion that the Democrats will be retaking control of the United States House of Representatives, but the numbers are what matter. I'm going to be taking out another video later this week that discusses the majority for the United States House of Representatives. But taking a look at these polls, Democrats are doing phenomenal. Before, I understand, I said it was tightening, and it was tightening. Look at this. I mean, the Democrats led by 3.2%. Actually, I don't have these up yet, but we can look at the 2010 congressional generic ballot, and you can go ahead and see where the Republicans did phenomenal as well. Around this time, let's see if we can find the exact date of today, which would be July 12th. The Republicans led by 3.2% after Democrats almost consistently leading. Then Republicans took the lead, and then it started getting close, and then all of a sudden they finished off at a 9.4% lead. Well, Democrats right now are at an 8% lead. Yes, it did narrow down as it did, with the Republicans taking around a lead in the generic ballot poll in 2010. Keep in mind, we all know what happened in 2010 with the Republicans taking back over 60 seats in the United States House, flipping it from blue to red. We could see the same thing with Democrats, but the question is, why aren't Democrats winning big? I mean, we can go ahead and look at the crosstab with their 2018 midterm forecast. Usually the Democrats are around the 60s, okay, 63% chance of winning. This actually shocked me right before I pulled up this video and was ready to record it. The Democrats had near a 3/4 chance of taking back the House, but then I looked at the seat forecast. Well, with the Democrats at a current, let's see, 6.8 average, which isn't really that accurate, meaning it should be higher. Regardless, the Democrats still are expected to carry 229 seats with this, and the Republicans 206. 218 are needed for a majority. So the Republicans were able to take back a whole number of seats, and they weren't even leading by a considerable amount at this point in time. Why are Democrats leading by around the same numbers that Republicans finished the election off of, and they won over 60 seats, and all of a sudden these seats, maybe 40, are flipping? Okay, that's not a lot compared to where the Republicans did. Well, the quick answer is gerrymandering, but it also comes down to a number of other factors. Keep in mind, Democrats aren't running the best candidates in a number of these races. Some of these incumbents are very vulnerable, and we've seen it in some primary elections where progressives are upsetting these incumbents that have been here for a long time, and all of a sudden it's a big shocker to the Democrats, like, you forgot about the progressive part of your party. I don't know how you forgot about them, but they're there. And when you really think you're going to slide into a re-election bid, especially in the primary, which sometimes you're the most vulnerable in safe states, because there's a big push. There's always those safe Democratic and safe Republican seats where all of a sudden a primary opponent challenges an incumbent who's in a safe seat. Well, yes, you're safe in the general election because there aren't that many Republican or Democratic voters. But when you neglect to focus on a primary election because you think you're going to win after your 14th term, well, again, if Democrats are able to make a last-minute push and they're in opposition to you, and Democrats only come out and vote in the general election, which is why it's safe in the general election, when it comes to the primary election, you're going to have to fight for it, and you can't just expect to win, especially since you neglect a major part of your party that's going to eventually help you win future elections. And we're going to take a look at the Sabato Crystal Ball ratings. I mean, looking at these House members, there are a number of House members where Donald Trump had won in the presidential election, and there are Democratic incumbents, and these are some very popular Democratic incumbents, like in Minnesota's 7th District with the incumbent retiring. That one is rated as a pure toss-up in this map over here. Let's see if we can find it. Minnesota 7th. Let's see. Okay, right here. Actually, it's not a toss-up, but Democrats are expected to win by 4, and the Republicans had won here by 28%. Let's not go there just yet, but looking at here, these are some areas where the GOP can focus on, but there are by far more seats that Hillary Clinton had carried with Republican incumbents, and keep in mind a number of them are retiring. And looking at these numbers, it's not looking too good for the Republican Party. Right now, Democrats are probably at one of their highest points. Before, yes, back in December, even I gave the Democrats 53 seats in the United States Senate. Well, the Democrats have a 13-point lead. I actually haven't seen the 2006 midterm polls. in a while. I think I saw them like a couple weeks ago maybe, but I never actually focused on them for a video. But the Democrats finished off with an 11.5 average, so typically the leading party underperforms, obviously, because in opinion polling, but clearly there weren't that many polls taken, considering that it's not shifting a lot, and a number of these polls have been flat, not because they average flat, because they are the same polls taken over and over. It actually narrowed down before the Democrats had a 15-point lead, so that was never something realistic. When it narrowed down, it got down to a little bit more of a realistic margin. But over here, this isn't too crazy. I mean, the Democrats possibly could win with an 8% lead nationwide. But keep in mind, Republicans are probably going to gain a number of voters, and they only narrowly won in 2016 when it came to the House generic vote nationwide. Republicans narrowly won that, yet they won the majority of seats by a considerable amount. It's not a close Congress. It's something that the Republicans have nearing a supermajority if they win like they did back in 2010. So when we talk about a number of these seats, they are gerrymandered, and that's not good for Democrats considering that they have the voters. They have the people out there to vote, but they've been split up or they've been all centralized in one district, and it's not to say that the Democrats don't do it too. In my home state of Maryland, my state of Maryland is probably one of the most gerrymandered states in the union. It happens on both sides, but right now the political party that's in power is the one doing it, and that is the Republican Party. And again, it all comes down to state legislatures and redistricting every 10 years with the new census data. So that's why 2020 governor elections are going to be something that's going to be focused on a lot, even though there are very few ones. The Democratic and Republican parties are going to focus on 2018 as well, because these are going to be the governors that are going to be here during redistricting. My home state of Maryland, the GOP is making a push here because, again, there is a possibility that all of my districts in my state could go blue, when there should be around 2 going to the Republicans and the remainder going to the Democrats, but we only have 1 Republican in Congress right now. There is a big possibility that we could have Ben Jealous in the governor seat, and not him per se gerrymandering it, but some of his constituents or the state senate, whatever, could gerrymander in the favor of other political parties. So when we look at these maps, the Democrats are winning big when it comes to the generic congressional vote. Great. That's good for Democrats. And these ratings are good for Democrats too. And money. When people bet on the predictions, it shows that the Democrats are currently leading. And most people do believe that the Democrats are going to take control of the United States House. But it's not going to be big, and it's not going to be by a lot. Again, gerrymandering is something that's extremely important. And these polls, if they start inching up for Democrats, they have a real possibility of flipping a number of other seats, some that weren't even considered flippable. Because again, the congressional elections aren't necessarily just about the performance of the president, because if it was, Democrats wouldn't be this high. Before, the president's approval rating wasn't too high either, but they weren't as high in the approval. They weren't as high in the generic ballot. Democrats were not doing as well when Trump was 39% approval rating. But now he has a 43% approval rating, and all of a sudden they're leading in the Democratic, they're leading the generic ballot polls. The Democrats are leading by 8%. They're not correlating that well. Keep in mind, if Trump goes down, the Democrats probably aren't going to go up much. Right now, they're focusing a lot on an anti-Trump campaign, but also there are a number of Democratic voters that, and Democratic candidates that are known in just smaller parts of the country that aren't being focused on nationwide. A great example is in Kentucky, where we have a female candidate, a veteran, someone who could actually win in a congressional race that's probably not even contested when it comes over to this race. Only one race is actually considered contested. I know it's Kentucky's 8th district, so let's go ahead and find. Actually, no, it was Kentucky's 6th, because Kentucky has 8 electoral votes, so it had to be the 6th. Andy Barr, I believe, and then it was Amy McGrath, if I'm not mistaken. But yeah, when it comes down to these special races, a number of these races aren't necessarily just the performance of the president, because if it was, the Democrats wouldn't be leading by this much. They're clearly doing something right. You can't knock them for that. But what is happening now, it seems like I don't know why it refreshes every so often, but it seems like the Republicans do have a possibility of inching back up to where they were before, but Democrats are taking a strong lead right now, leading into 2018, and if they hold this and they consistently keep this up, then they have a real possibility of taking back the House, which is almost everything is pointing to that. But again, if the Democrats fail and they start losing voters, keep in mind these gerrymandered districts are going to get a lot harder to flip. It was hard to do in Pennsylvania. It was hard to do in a number of other states, and they weren't able to do it in 16. They only flipped 6 seats, and some of those weren't even that gerrymandered. They were just toss-up seats or retiring incumbents. Now we have a number of retiring incumbents. These polls are good, but the Democrats need to get their voters out. People can look at the polls like they did in 2016 and say, why do I need to vote? That's also something that's not beneficial to the Democrats, because they need turnout if they want to win. If they don't have that, they don't win. These polls really mean nothing if there's no turnout on the Democratic side. Thank you guys for watching this video. Comment down suggestions below, and I will see you all tomorrow.